Whenever you're printing a large number of prints and you want to have some variety between them, 3D pen sample packs are a great alternative for making that happen. I've been printing a lot of low poly dinos, of course, and to give them a variety of colors so that my pictures aren't all just monotone, I got some of these sample packs of filament, and I really enjoy these sample packs of filament. They are ostensibly for 3D pens, but they work in 3D printers as well, provided that you get the right diameter of filament. Most of the 3D pens that take filament use 1.75 millimeter filament. So, like the Monoprice Select Mini is a perfect 3D printer for throwing that on there. Of course, the samples aren't very big. You can't do a large scale print with them, but small prints about the size that I'm modeling for the low poly dinos are just about perfect for it. Usually one of these spools will print one of these dinosaurs and leave not a whole lot at the end. Another consideration though that you have to think about is how much distance there is from your feeder mechanism to your extruder. On my Replicator 1, my old reliable here, it's a direct drive, so I can work it right to the edge of that and use up most of that spool. But with machines like the Monoprice Select Mini, you're going to have this much waste at the end of it. And if you look at the Neva, which I'm still using the Neva, or rather my kids are still using the Neva almost every day. They're 3D printing some wonderful, wonderful things with it. But it's got a super long Bowden tube that starts at the bottom and winds its way all the way up to the top. If you've got a 3D printer like that, these samples probably aren't very good because that becomes wasted filament that you just can never reclaim. But even on the Mini, this short Bowden tube or a CR10, it's, I believe, an acceptable loss to just throw that out so that you can get such a variety of colors. However, what is the best way to use these little micro coils because they don't come in spools? Well, I think I found the solution. I was inspired by the $5 filament from a company that's no longer around, but they made these little mini spools, micro spools, if you will, and they were super clever, and I modeled it myself. It prints flat, just like this, and it's got four arms around the side, and I've put plenty of holes in there that are just big enough for putting your filament through. And then what you do is you heat it up with the heat gun, give it a little twist. You technically don't even need to heat it up. You could just give them a twist, but I like to heat it up and then cool it down, and it creates a three-dimensional micro spool. Then this just sits on your feeder mechanism, and the filament feeds out of it just fine, and it works perfectly. And this is the perfect solution. Actually, this was a bad idea. I tried this out, and if you watched my live stream where I was modeling dinos and talking to people about my modeling process, for those of you on the Kickstarter, I'm working with a filament supplier, and they are putting out these little mini spools of filament, or little coils of filament, not actually spools. But I printed this little mini spool here that you then heat up and twist, and it becomes this little micro spool. And I thought maybe that would solve the problem, but unfortunately, it didn't. I was printing out the giant turtle, the Archillion here, and the print that I made during that failed. And why did it fail? Because I was experimenting with the micro spool. And this unfortunately didn't let the filament roll off naturally, maybe because it was just so tightly coiled, I don't know. But it ended up pulling off, popping off, jamming on the print, and causing a filament snag. So actually, this very clever idea that I thought I had was the worst idea. What is the correct way to print with these microspools? Obviously, I've got a lot of experience. It is simply to feed the coil in and uncoil it like a spring. Make sure that it's all going in the same direction. And sometimes it'll hang down, which is great. Other times it'll spring back up and hold up there. But make sure that it's fully uncoiled, and then it will print just fine. And that is the actual trick for printing with these little micro coils. I've really enjoyed using these, and during my Kickstarter, Artisan Filaments provided some sample packs to my Kickstarter backers, and I want to thank them very much for their support. Because of their support, people who backed the Kickstarter pretty much got $17 worth of free filament that they could experiment with, and it was a great thing for those who could take advantage of it. Thank you, Artisan. I'm going to put a link to Artisan in the description so that you guys can check them out if you want. Now, since I was playing with little mini coils, I had the opportunity to print some more supporter tiles, and it's been a little while since I've been able to read these off. So, Jimmy D. Solomon, Stephen Kaus, and Stefan Meyer, thank you very much for your support. Now I get to find a home for these tiles on my mosaic, and I always look forward to that because it's just like building a puzzle, and I love building puzzles. I want to thank all of my Patreon backers. Your continued support is just a wind beneath my wings. Thank you very much. And as always, I want to thank you very much for watching to this point and remind you, safety first. I'll see you next time.